Let me start texting board members. It is 5 o'clock. I will. They have not said they weren't coming, so I'll just check. Okay, I just we have Francoise, Jennifer, and yourself, so we could get started while the rest join if you'd like.
Okay, will do. Welcome, everyone, and good evening. This is a meeting of the Hartford Board of Education's Family and Community Engagement Committee. My name is Stephen Tatum, and as the new chair of the committee, I'd like to welcome the board members that are here, the district staff that are here, and also our partners who are here to help present some information for us this evening. It's October 3rd at 5 o'clock. And I believe there are 5 items on our agenda for this evening. First, we're going to hear an update on the strategic plan engagement, I believe from the superintendent. Then we're going to hear about 2 contracts that will be up for discussion at our next regular meeting. First, the language line contract, and then a contract for family resource centers at a few of our schools. Then in the meeting, we'll hear about some survey data from a youth voice survey that was conducted by United Way recently. And finally, we will hear an update on the WISH building construction.
Sorry, that actually just real quick changed to the office, the overview of the office, and the WISH is going to be postponed.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll hear about an update from the WISH construction another time, and we'll instead have an update on the reorganization of the Office of Strategic Partnerships and Fund Development. All right. Thank you for sharing that agenda, Christina. And with that, I will turn it over to the superintendent to hear about our strategic planning process engagement.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairperson Tatum. I think we are a little ahead in the presentation. If we can go back to slide 1.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Slide 2. There we go.
Slide 2, yes. So quickly, just to ground us in my brief presentation, the update that I want to give is relative to our strategic planning process, which, as you know, when we look at the work of the year, the big work of the year, the work should align within these buckets, if you will. And so across the bottom, developing our vision and plan for future readiness and financial resilience. In our next slide, this is next slide, please. It's another visual that some of you have seen, which is right. This is a year of transition while we develop our strategic plan. And if we go to the next slide, in line with those strategies, we did launch our strategic planning process in September to guide the district through the next decade, if you will, and ensure that our students are ready for this rapidly changing world. It's a process that will culminate in a 10-year vision statement and a three-year strategic plan, of course, grounded in equitable access, innovative thinking, and truly meaningful community engagement. It is something that a commitment that is shared also among all of our board members. And so we are committed to co-creating a roadmap for the future of Hartford Public Schools There is a survey component. There will be multiple surveys, but phase 1 survey is now live, and additional information is available on our website. But to get us to just a little more granularity into some of the details over the next couple of months, if we go to the next slide for a timeline overview. Phase 1 of this process did start with the official launch on websites and social media channels on September 18th. And between September 21st and October 31st, that's when the active collection of feedback through surveys, community events, and focus groups will take place. This is the input phase, which will help ensure that as many voices as possible throughout our community, including our students, families, and partners, are lifted and heard. And relative to engagement efforts, right, there are community engagement activities throughout that period. Events like, for example, the soft launch that we had on September 28th, the last weekend, continuing to promote the showcase school visits that are happening. We're thinking between mid-October and mid-November, which are events that will give families and even community members an opportunity to directly contribute to the vision as they visit our schools. We will also have school-based focus groups. We're working, closely with our school leaders in the coming weeks to support with organizing focus groups where the school-based staff and students can share their insights and recommendations as well. If we kind of look ahead a little bit as to what are the next steps relative to community engagement, October 31st, after that first phase, we'll transition into the second phase, which will involve sharing what we have learned from phase 1, and then beginning more focused public conversations about the draft strategic plan. So if you think about it, phase 1, right, we have open-ended questions, if you will. We want to make sure that we're not diving into these co-creation opportunities with leading questions. And so that's a key design feature that our partners at CPRL made sure that we stay true to. And then as we shift over to the second phase, right, there'll be more focused conversations based on the themes and the trends that emerged during phase 1. State of the district, aiming for November 19th, where we will host, this is sort of like a key event, if you will, to present progress made so far, and to continue gathering feedback. So it's almost twofold, whereas we're going to just touch base on where are we relative to Hartford Public Schools, and also relative to the strategic planning process. And so the call to action for today, again, is to encourage all members of, all members of this committee, but also in our community, to actively engage in promoting the efforts within your networks. And the more input, the more voice that we gather, the stronger and more inclusive our plan and the work ahead will be. And if we go to the next slide, just a few images from the soft launch, our first in-person community engagement session, where Hartford Parent University was having their day-long schedule of sessions, learning sessions, and we opened the event. Myself and our chairperson Hakan Hall was there as well, and we then, after doing an initial overview of where are we relative to some progress and areas of growth in the district, did a little dive as to the purpose of the engagement around the strategic planning, and then we broke into smaller groups, and parents and caregivers shared thoughts around the prompt that was, what is your dream for the next 10 years at Hartford Public Schools? And some of the themes that emerged in my group. I haven't looked at the themes yet. I know that the team at CPRL is going through all of the feedback that was submitted, but it was clear that some discussions in our group focused on more individualized support for students and families expressing that they had concerns around safety of their communities, the broader community, and the implications of that and how that shows up for students and or across school communities. Also very clear to me that families are truly invested in this work. They want to be heard. They want to work collaboratively. They were already sharing ideas as to how right, we could potentially support our students and our educators as well, acknowledging that the work is really hard in our community and how can we support everyone to be successful on behalf of our students. One thing that I'll share that while we're having this conversation around the strategic planning process is feedback that I continue to hear, and I just wanted to lift it here, given that it's one committee, and I'll share this with throughout other committees because it does have implications for board work and policy, and that is around school consolidation, where when folks speak about the challenges that we're having relative to financial sustainability, one of the recurring comments that I hear is, well, so we have to close schools. And so I just wanted to publicly talk here to not just this committee, but the broader audience, that, closing schools is the process and there are policy implications for that. And so a recommendation that I'm making to this committee here is for just a deep dive and examination of our current policies relative to consolidation, closures, or any reconfiguration of the district if those are steps that are going to be taken. I want to make sure that our community understands that as at this moment, absolutely no decisions have been made, and that we are as we engage in this strategic planning process, we'll look at all aspects of Hartford Public Schools in alignment with, yes, being future ready, but also financially resilient. And so I don't know, Committee Chair Tatum, where that lives within this committee, but because I was giving an update, and I see our chairperson, Chair Hockenhall, is here as well. There is an interdependency, right, with the strategic planning process and the themes and the feedback and the comments that I continue to hear. And so I just wanted to kind of bring it here and kind of put it all together. It is work that I think the board, this committee, the policy committee, committee of the whole, I think we should just create space and time to look at where our policies are currently relative to all of that. And I think in my last slide, again, here are some upcoming events. From now through the end of October, we'll be conducting our school-based interviews and focus groups to gather feedback from staff, students, and families. And later on, the showcase visit, which we have McDonough Middle School that kind of said, okay, we're game, we'll do it. And then we'll have 2 additional showcase dates coming up. And we'll share those with our community. We encourage you to participate. And between October 7th and November 15th, we'll be conducting the interviews and focus groups with other community partners. Again, sessions to specifically gather insights from our community-based organizations, local businesses, industry partners, and other stakeholders that are interested in the future of our students and our schools. And lastly, as I mentioned before, the State of the District on November 18th. There's a lot of details and planning that goes into that one. And so we're just at the beginning stages of that work. And I just want to extend my gratitude to Charisse Eifeld, Janelle, Alejandro, and the entire team, and obviously the partners at CPRO and of course, our board for being right alongside of us in this process. So, Chair Tatum, that concludes my update.
Thank you very much for that update. So for any community members that are tuning in, do stay tuned for more dates for ways that you can participate in giving us your input in this 10-year vision and 3-year strategic plan in the coming months. And thank you for the recommendation, Superintendent, that we do a deep dive and examination of some of those consolidation policies. It's certainly not anything that any of us want to take lightly. So we'll be sure to make time for that in all the places that make sense. All right. Next on the agenda, I believe, is looking at the contract continuation for the language line. And for discussion on that, I will first pass it over to Ms. Janelle Hooker.
Thank you, Board Member Tatum. And thank you, Christina, for sharing this slide deck. So Hartford Public School, we're going to be talking today about our contract renewal or continuation with Language Line. As a district, we are a district that have at least 80 different languages that are spoken here, and we want to make sure that we are responsive to providing access to our families. So today's presentation, Christina, you could go to the next slide. Today's presentation, it's going to focus on providing introduction and overview of the services, talk about the call volume and the reports that we have, do a little bit of comparison information that I was able to gather, and then review our translation rates. Next slide. So a little bit of the overview that I wanted to share with you is, as I mentioned, our district has over 80 different languages that are spoken, and by federal law and guidance, we are required to ensure that they are able to access educational information. We have been utilizing the Language Line services for a long period of time, since 2011. And we have, as a district, we are trying to really make sure that we are responsive in real time and providing interpretation during any of our meetings so that our families can have access to understanding and timely information at the different schools when they're looking to have participation in PPTs, or if they're just coming to the school to be able to get some services. Language Line is a service that is available 24/7. It's a service that provides interpretation in over 240 languages, which is something that is beneficial for us as a district because of the number of languages that we have as a district. And it also does not record the conversations that are being led, and we do not need to prearrange or schedule the service. It is available at the time that it's needed. In 2020, we had an average of 25 different languages that we needed the services for, and we then increased the access to 36 different languages that has accessed this service, which is why there is a need for us as a district to continue to have a service like this one, accessing for our families. Next slide. The number of volume of calls that we have received, I did a comparison between our school year 23-24 and the beginning of school year 24-25 as of September 30th. In school year 23-24, we had over 12,000 calls. To be exact, it was 12,077 calls. And you can see that in Spanish alone, we had 2,336 calls that our families were able to access across the district in order to receive the information that they need in their native language. For the report that I run for school year 24-25, and this is really a snapshot of the months of July, August, and September. Mind you, July is summer, but the service was needed during that period of time. We've had 84 calls, and you can also see that Spanish continues to be the highest one in need that we have as a district. Next slide. I wanted to kind of highlight or pull out Spanish as it being the second most spoken language as a district to show the growth that we've had in accessing the service from school year 2020 to 2021, all the way to last year's, which is school year 23 to 24. You're able to see that in 2020 to 2021, we had a total of 8,916 calls. And by last school year, we had a total of 10,189 calls, showing the need that our families and the multilingual needed access to be able to understand and be an active participant in their child's education. Next slide. For the purpose of this service and for the purpose of ensuring that we were being fiscally responsible as a district, I did take the opportunity to do a deeper dive to review different services, to do a comparison to see how we were doing in terms of our fiscal management for this particular service prior to bringing this to the committee for review. As you can see, the organizations that I did the comparison were also Interpreters and Translators, Inc., Bay State, Integrate Language Services. And between those organizations and Language Line, we do have a similar approach as well as the prices. You can see that Language Line is around the 64 cents per minute for Spanish, and other languages is around 69 cents per minute. And then you see an increase of a few more in the different language line services or the different translation services that I review with the team. However, the impact of us shifting also into any other one of the services would have had a greater fiscal implication for us as a district in terms of the switch that we would have to do around the equipment needed, the training needed, as our entire district is now trained and understand how to utilize the service, would have had a greater fiscal impact had we transitioned into another provider, which is the reason why, if you go to the next slide, Christina, the reason why I bring to you today Language Line as the service that we are recommending for the continuation of their contract because of their competitive cost, the fact that they have an access for us of 24 hours, 7 days a week. We do have all of our schools trained in how to access and utilize the service. They do offer Insight audio and video interpretation for our families. So this is something that also help with any of our individuals that may need that video support. And it allow us as a district to be in compliance with any legal requirements, as well as the Parent Bill of Rights for English learner and multilingual learners, that we need to ensure that our families have timely access to the information of education within their native language. At this time, I would want to open it up to see if there are any questions on my presentation. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hooker. Board members, if you have any questions, go ahead and raise your hand. As I see Board Member Brody, go ahead.
Good evening. Well, it's really nice today, everybody. Thanks for the presentation. I just wanted to ask, like, how would a family know? Like, do we have any signage at the schools? Like, first, that's my first question. Like, do we have any signage at the schools, or is staff just expected to know to ask families?
No, so at each one, that's a really good question. Thank you so much for raising that up, as it was not part of my presentation. But at each one of our schools, we do have signs that are posted for them to request for this service. We also ensure that our frontline and or security guards, when families are entering the building, are aware and have the number that is a 24/7 that they can access to ensure that the service is available for them to provide. So that was part of the training that was done at the district level to all of our schools, and to be
Okay.
able to have it posted.
Okay, that's good to know, because sometimes everyone may hear something and they just automatically assume, like, okay, we can't necessarily always pull staff from everywhere to translate. We certainly don't want to expect children to be translators. But yeah, that's good. I didn't know if we had signs up. So inner security, which is the first point of contact, is aware. So that was my question.
Thank you.
Vivian, do you have something to add to that
Yeah.
question, or do you have a further question?
Thank you. And I just wanted to add the language line. Every year, our executive assistant Vivian, we go shopping into their website. So they provide it's little cards that we would put in your badge, right? If you're a staff at the school, you put it in your badge, and then that's something that our staff also has. The executive assistants have been trained. The FCSSPs have been trained. And last year we worked on a protocol for multilingual supports, and that is on our website, and it also has been shared with the families.
Mr. Chair, through you, can I ask a follow-up question?
Go ahead, Ms. Brody.
So I know, like, for me at work, certain jargon is needed, because certain things, they're like, I don't know that word, even when you're trying to get someone to help you. So is this service, does it know education jargon and lingo and words to find it in the moment? Like, do they have those type of ones, especially for us when we're like putting in our code for our school system?
Can
I can answer
Can I
that if you'd like me
respond?
to.
Can I
Janelle.
respond? Okay, thank you, Mr. Matthews. So I actually do have Mr. Matthews here with us at our meeting, which is from the language line. Thank you for joining. I know that you just had surgery, so I appreciate you here supporting. So I will direct that to Mr. Matthews and then be able to have a follow-up answer.
All right, great. Thank you so much. So yes, we have trained interpreters. We actually have about 25,000 employee interpreters waiting to take your calls, and they are trained in different services. So education is definitely one of them. We welcome all of our clients, if you have specific jargon, to share it with us. Every account is able to have a glossary on it. So interpreters, if there's anything that is different from your school than another, we can look it up that there's words spoken, but we always advise, like during the training, to keep things as simple as possible. Avoid jargon, avoid slang, avoid any type of acronyms or anything else that might add some confusion or doesn't interpret well from one language to another. But yes, all of our interpreters are educated on the education services that are offered, and they know the lingo.
And just to add to Mr. Matthews, I would also like to say that not only with the educational jargon, but in my research, also ensuring that they also do have that Insight audio video interpretation that also allows for the translation culturally, right? Because there is a difference between Spanish that someone from Colombia would speak versus someone from Peru or Puerto Rico when you're trying to do the translation. So that was something that was important for us to keep in mind as well, due to the variety of individuals that we have.
And I can add one more
Thank
thing
you.
to that, if I may. So all of our interpreters are native born. So even if somebody is versed has a master's degree in a certain language, if they're not from that country, we will not hire them because of the cultural awareness that they can provide. And they'll let you know if you say something that might be offensive to somebody in another language, you won't know that, but the interpreters will, and they'll keep you from doing that. And that's part of our training as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great. Mr. Ledger, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Yes? Okay, great. I
Yeah, we can.
apologize. Okay, great. Thank you so much. And I apologize for my camera being off. My question is with regards to the language line, what is when someone uses the language line, how quick is the response, if you will? And is there 100% response when there's translation services that's needed in every language that they call for? That's my first question.
Okay.
That's
So
go ahead.
I was going to say the average connection time over all languages is about 20 seconds. It depends on the language. So if if you request Spanish, you're probably going to have no wait whatsoever. It's going to be almost instant. For some of the more rare languages or languages of lesser diffusion, I mean, you might wait a couple of minutes for like Navajo or a language that we only have a few interpreters for. Now, out of the 250 languages that we provide service for, there may be a time when you call up for like one that we only have a couple of interpreters for, that we say, right now, this language is not available. Can you make an appointment for another, like 2 hours from now or tomorrow or another time? So it's not every single language all the time, but the languages that you request we'll always have on hand. So some of our clients have like really, really rare languages, and we just don't have a lot of interpreters in those languages. So we ask to schedule, but most of them are on demand.
Okay, thank you. And what about Haitian, in particular, Haitian Creole? How's that working out?
Yeah, so that is our most requested. Like
I was
going to say, we've had a 300% increase in Haitian Creole over the last couple of years. We've hired hundreds of new interpreters. At one point, the average connection time for Haitian Creole was around 4 to 5 minutes. It's gone down to about 30 seconds now. So we do have a ton in in legal and medical and general and schools. We have a ton of Haitian Creole interpreters, both available on video and audio.
And if I could just add to that answer is, I think the good thing about when I was doing the research was because we provide them with the high level of language speaking languages that we have as a district. So even though we have 83, we do have data that shows our top 10 or top 12. Every single one of those languages are the ones that he's talking in terms of just seconds of wait. So that is one area that I was also able to look at.
Thank you. And I have another question. And the reason I'm asking these questions is because as an educator, I tend to do some translating because the language line, sometimes there's a significant wait time and sometimes they don't respond. And so sometimes, folks may be pulled from the building. If you have individuals in the building, adults, of course, who are able to, step in and support. The other question I have is with regards to Karen, because I know that is one of the languages that is, for some students in Hartford Public Schools. How is the wait time for that?
Sure. I think the average connection time with Karen right now is about 45 seconds. It's been lower. We've had more requests for it this year than we have, but yeah, it's well under a minute on average. So if you've ran into, where you're saying that an interpreter wasn't available in some of the top languages, that should have been like way far behind us. That should not be happening now or anytime, like even within the last year. So if you do run into that, we have a reporting process called Voice of a Customer, where you can go to our website, let us know, and we'll look into it. We'll find out what happened and why. Every single time you enter or a voice of a customer, an investigation is opened, and within 72 hours, you'll find out what happened and why. And sometimes it might be something in your setup. It might be something where we just had like the hurricane in Florida, where it did draw a lot of the Haitian Creole interpreters for the 911s who were calling us and stuff. So it might have been something at that particular time where there was something out of the ordinary happening. But please let us know, either if it takes too long to connect with an interpreter, you're unable to get an interpreter, there was any issues on that whatsoever, please let us know about it so we can assist you with it.
Thank you so much. And I have one more question and I'll be done. With regards to situations where there's a mandated reporter type situation taking place, how do you handle that? So if there's for example, if there's sensitive information that may have to involve DCF, but you need the language line to provide translation services, how does that work? How do you maintain the confidentiality and the integrity and all that?
Sure. So every single interpreter has to sign a confidentiality agreement, and we can have a business associate agreement or HIPAA agreement with you. We maintain a clean desk policy, which means every single thing that is written down has to be shredded. Every single interpreter has a shredder, but they hardly ever write anything down on paper anymore. It's either a whiteboard or something that can automatically be erased as soon as the call is over. But and we also have a certificate of insurance for you. So in case, it's never happened, we've been around for 42 years, but if anything were to happen where some information were somehow taken or dispersed, you're not responsible, we are. But again, it's never happened.
Okay, thank you so much. Those are all my questions.
Of course.
Board Member Wilson, I see your hand up.
Thank you. Appreciate the presentation. Sorry, my camera's off. Quick question. Follow up to the previous one, how do we monitor the success of these calls when a family gives a call, or if there's any issues with the calls for the translations? How do we monitor it so that we can follow up with you guys to ensure that these families are getting the services that they need?
So I did have that as part of the research that I did. We were able to run a report on any complaints that were submitted on the service. We did a 3-year search. I only got two, we're able to pull up only 2 feedback or 2 input on the service out of the 3-year report that I ran. And it wasn't even a negative input. It was more around being grateful for the service that I was able to pull up. But as I was doing the research, the service does have the ability for families to be able to put in their report, which I was a part of one of the reports. I said 2, right? One of the reports that came in, and we were able to right away, once we reported, we were given the steps on here is the link where they can actually go in and put in their report so they can review and look into what was needed. And that actually did happen within minutes. We got the input, we got the report, we sent out the email, and it was less than 5 minutes that was able to be resolved. So that was one of the things that I actually had as part of the research to look.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a quick follow-up on that question. I wonder if those systems for providing feedback could be included in the paper, information about how to use the lines in the future. Because I know from my time in schools that some parents were, had maybe a bad experience through language line. Maybe not through any fault of language line, but it was just a complicated situation or whatever, and just didn't feel like they were able to be heard in the way that they wanted. And I do think that if only 2 pieces of feedback have been collected in 3 years, that points to like a lack of ability to use that tool to give the feedback. So that's just one suggestion.
Thank you for
Um,
that suggestion. Noted.
I had a question about the video interpretation. Could you just say more about how that works? I'm not familiar. And I'm asking because like I know that LanguageLine does not offer in-person interpretation services. And I wonder if the video interpretation might be more appropriate or feel more natural in a situation where interpretation might be needed in an in-person meeting, such as a PPT.
Sure. Mr. Matthews, or would you like me to go off of the information?
I'd be
I
happy
have?
to. Nope, I'd be
Okay.
happy to do it. So first, we do offer in person. So if you need it in person, our biggest hub or our headquarters is in North Carolina. We do have interpreters in Connecticut. So if you needed an in-person interpreter for most languages, we'd be able to assist you. As far as the video remote, it's called Insight. It'll work on any of your own devices. So you could download an app on an Android or Apple device. It'll work on a smartphone, a tablet. It'll even work on a laptop or PC. We have our top 15 languages, which are available 24/7, 365, and that includes American Sign Language. So it'll make your schools ADA compliant for that reason. Also includes Spanish and again, the most requested languages. The other 45 or so languages through video are available in every single time zone at least 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., but most time zones, it's available from like 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. And it's on demand as well. Average connection time is under 30 seconds for a video interpreter. And you're right. In some cases, like the first IEP meeting, video might be better than audio. It just brings in that personal touch, and it's, the best is always going to be in person. I mean, absolutely always. That's the best client experience, parent experience. Video's next, then audio. And audio is perfect for most of your needs, but I agree with you. And the video is a good solution when you don't have in person. And I'm not sure if I answered all your questions or not, but.
And video also has a slight increase in the price, different from what I did in the presentation. For Spanish, it's $1.50 per minute. And if we did any other language, it would be $1.85. And if we do those for sign language, it would be $2.25 per minute. So it does have an increase in price if we want to think from a fiscal perspective.
Thank you for that. That answers my question. Mr. Estella, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you so much. I have 2 questions. The first question is actually for you, Board Member Tatum. You indicated that in your past experience, I guess there was a situation, not a situation, but there was a negative experience with LanguageLine that parents experienced, or no?
I can think of one parent of a student of mine from the past who preferred not to use LanguageLine because of some like past experience, I believe.
Do you know how long, do you recall what year that was?
It was after the pandemic. I think I had that student in like 2022, 2023, something like that.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Matthews, you stated that you have made, I guess, significant improvements to reduce the wait time. And what other improvements have you made or changes have you made to improve services between 2023 and 2024? If you can just recall, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. So we started a new program just a couple of years ago where all of the interpreters are encouraged to take our training, like to improve and to level to a different, improve to a different level. So we have interpreters that are L3, L4, L5. And L3 interpreters are general interpreters who can handle like customer service type calls. L4 goes into more medical and advanced, and L5 is court and even more advanced. So we offer free training for them. We pay for schooling for them to better themselves. And another thing, we've been like a best place to work for the last 5 years in a row. And that's, we're the only interpretation company that's had that. If you'll look online and Google like interpreter complaints and stuff, you know, we treat our interpreters very, very well. And most of our interpreters are employees, whereas in most of our competitors use contractors. Now we have to use contractors for a few languages, for languages that we can't staff fully, but most of our calls that you make are handled by an employee, and that's really important for a lot of reasons. I know confidentiality was brought up earlier, and that's a huge part of it. And even the contractors that we use, they have to go through our onboarding, which includes a confidentiality agreement. And a lot of agencies don't. So.
Okay, thank you so much. I just wanted to know if there was, you know, what some of the changes were to improve services. And it's really commendable that you have, you know, a great rating with regards to it being one of the great places to work. I'll also add, as an interpreter myself, because I do translation services as well, in person, yes, in person is great. However, if the translator is being hired to translate, they're being hired to translate the language, not the body language per se. So sometimes if it is in person, depending on what it is, whether it's a deposition or a PPT or something of that nature, sometimes folks can get caught up in the body language and not the actual language, verbal language, if you will. So thank you for that.
No, you're 100% correct, especially if you'll watch any ASL interpreters. They get very, very just animated. So it's hard to listen to the conversation sometimes when you're watching their facial expressions and everything. But you're right, body language plays it can be distracting.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Matthews and Ms. Hooker, for sharing all that information on the language line contract. And again, this will be brought before the full board at the next regular meeting. And so we can move on to the next item. I believe back to you, Ms. Hooker, for information about the family support centers, family resource centers.
Family resource centers. Thank you so much for allowing me to do this presentation as well. So for the second contract that we brought to you this evening, as board member Tatum shared, it's the acceptance as funds and contract approval for the Connecticut State Department of Education Family Resource Centers. Next slide. Today, we're going to hear an overview and key data points of the Family Resource Centers that operate at 5 of our community schools. Next slide. So Family Resource Centers access or is a service or a program that is school-based and is an initiative that is administered by the Connecticut State Department of Education. It provides access to continuum of services that foster optimal development and educational services for children beginning at birth. For our particular school district, we do have a total of 5 family resource centers that are managed by 2 community-based organizations. The family resource centers that we have as a district are at Burns. Burns, that is managed or administered by the Village. Maria Sanchez, which is managed or administered by the Hispanic Health Council. Rawson, which is managed or administered by the Village. Sand, which is managed or administered by the Village. And Wish, which is managed or administered by the Village as well. Next slide. So to give a little bit of background or information on our the family resource centers, these were established back in 1988, as you can see here in the slide, and it was an opportunity in using the schools to provide early childhood education, childcare, and family support services, which is a model that has been widely adopted in several states. It includes to provide education and childcare for children ages 3, 4, and 5. It includes before and after care, vacation and summer, and childcare, school age services for children, parent education and playgrounds for and even home visitation as part of the services that they offer. It includes outreach and training to the providers in the schools and the neighborhood that surrounds our schools. It includes support and education services for families to obtain. They can either get high school diploma or GED access. It also provides positive youth development and services like that to the members of the community that are in the surround our schools. Next slides. For school year 23-24, the Family Resource Centers, there is a full report that they provide via our Welcome Center in order for it to go to the state. But here are just some highlights that I was able to pull out for the purpose of our presentation. Some of the trends or patterns that I saw there is a bigger array of things that they do, right? But the full report provides information in categories as family engagement, or the services, I should say, are around family engagement, early care and education, school age children care program, trainings for families, referrals and the source for referrals and resources, adult education programs, and positive youth development. Some of the things that you could see across the 5 schools are the number of participants and or families that were able to access services via the Family Resource Centers. I would like to point your attention to basic needs as one of the areas that had a high impact for our families and surrounding neighbors. And in terms of basic needs, you could think about support in food insecurity. You could think about referrals for services that impact the families that access those services. And as you can see, there is at least a number of families that were benefited from not only the basic needs, but also some presentations, which were really training opportunities for families and children. They did support with some celebratory events, which went from open houses or back to school events that they also facilitated with the schools, among other services that they offered. They also had a plethora of events that they did across the different schools. And those events went from either having a family night or doing events that could hone into what family engagement looked like and provide our families with opportunities for them to feel as part of the school community, as well as to network and have opportunities to know what other services are available to them within the schools and the referral source that they would have access around our school communities as well. Next slide. So for us to review today at committee, what we are reviewing is that we have 5 family resource centers. This is actually a Connecticut State Department of Education program. They do their own RFP, and as part of that RFP, the 2 organizations that I brought to committee today are the community-based organizations that facilitate the services at the 5 schools that I mentioned. And we're looking at a contract continuation or renewal for them for 1 year, which would be for the period that you see listed here, as well as the total amount that we're looking for it to be approved as part of their service. I also do have with me the representatives of the 2 organizations, should you have any questions from the presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Hooker. I have one question maybe to start. Could you clarify the funding source for this? And it mentioned like acceptance of funds. Where is the money coming from to pay for this contract?
So the funds that are utilized for this particular contract is from the Connecticut State Department of Education, specifically to operate family resource centers. This is a state-led opportunity, and for our district, it is for five of our schools.
Thank you. Mr. Stoliger, I see your hand up first.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you for the presentation. I have a question with regards to, say, if there's a school that is not part of these 5 schools, and they perhaps have a situation or a family that may be in need who would definitely benefit from these services. How does that work? What would happen? Would they be able to tap into these services, or what would be the course of action, if any?
Yes, so I can share that based on the report, the full report that I read, that it's going out to the State Department of Education. I did see that there were mention of the services being available to families and or individuals from other schools to be able to access the food pantry and a lot of the basic needs supports that are offered. But I also have representative of the organizations with me on the call, just in case they want to add on to that particular question that I just answered.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I appreciate the question. Alden Allen from the Village of Family and Children. The services provided by the FRCs are available to the greater Hartford community. If families come to the FRCs and there are needs, we are able to provide food service pieces for them. We offer birth to 5 programming. We offer daycare provider training. So there's a variety of services, and all of which are available. The only challenge that would occur is the FRCs are located within the schools themselves. So outside of those hours, they would have trouble gaining access to FRC staff. But beyond that, we are available to the greater community.
Thank you so much. And I have a follow-up question. What is your cap, if any? And so with each school and with the entire district, I'm just curious.
Okay.
And are you close to that? And and how many students are you currently serving?
Okay. Well, thank you for the question. So the FRC itself they're sort of, pillars or areas of service. So as you're referring to the home visitation program and the PAT program, the cap for that, each FRC staff is able to carry a caseload between 7 and 10. But those, again, they are based on needs and they rotate. Some may stay 1 month, some may stay 5 months, some may stay for an entire year. So it all really it depends on the caseload at the time and the capacity of which to provide services. But in the event that we're not able to provide direct services, we do have referral services, resource and referrals. So we're able to connect families with services that they are able to leverage to then sort of meet their needs if in fact there is a limitation just due to staffing capacity. And with regard to the question, I believe the question was how many students are involved at present. FRCs provide a variety of programs. So as we're looking at it, some FRC, in each school is different. I mean, one of the unique qualities of Hartford Public Schools is each one has sort of their own sort of flow as it's being responsive to the community on a whole. So we may have lunch bunch programs where we're going to provide pro-social activities for youth during the lunch bunch, and those serve as many classes as teachers see fit. We offer some life skills group dealing with suicidal ideation, doing what sort of getting along with your peers, building on the resiliency skill sets of students. So that's also at another school. Some have after-school programming where they provide services with regard during the extended day portion. So as you're asking the question and you're sort of looking at it, it varies from school to school, but those students, like I mentioned, that are involved in those programs, they do have to be a part of the school that they are that the FRC is providing services within. So that rule is slightly different than the rule for the greater community and providing services to adults.
Okay, thank you so much. And I apologize. I just have one more question, I promise. What about language? So if you have a student or a family, I would say particularly a student who requires services, who will benefit from one of your services, if they don't speak the language, do you have translators or how would that work?
Okay. As Janelle pointed out earlier, one of the
Yeah.
realities are we have a variety of languages being spoken, and within our FRC staff, we do our best to hire bilingual staff. In the event that we are not able to provide services with for those families, we look to leverage a resource. So we do work with the United Way, we do work with other agencies. So our goal is to make sure that there is an opportunity that we're able to provide. We work with Hartford Public Schools to discuss kind of what the options are to providing services. Because the last thing any of us want to do is to say no to any family, any child regarding services. So the answer to your question is we will leverage resources as best as possible to make sure that that need is being met.
Thank you so much. And I'm done.
Go ahead, Ms. Hagenal.
Thank you. I'm not sure if this is for Ms. Hooker or Mr. Allen, but it looks like we recently approved a contract also for the village related to community schools. Can you just explain the difference between what this is that you're doing for family resources or resource centers versus the community schools?
So I'll start first, Aldwin, and then if you want to jump in after then that with this. So that's an excellent question. So the community schools contract that we reviewed previously is particularly to the model that we have implemented within the schools for our students as part of bringing in community-based organizations. So while the village may be one of the lead organizations that we have within a particular school, as a lead agency, they are able to broker services with additional CBOs to cover any of the additional services or gaps that the students in need at the school have based on MTSS. I mean, there's a variety of tools that we use to be able to see what are the needs that we're trying to fulfill. The Family Resource Centers is open not only to the students and the families of the schools, but they also provide services to the community that is surrounding the schools as well. And the fundings are different. The Family Resource Center is a state-led initiative for across the Connecticut state, right? And then we in Hartford have 5. And then the community schools we're utilizing is a national model. We're utilizing our Title I funds, and we did a braided, as you remember in that presentation, to be able to support that particular model. I'm hoping that what I said answered your question, but I do have Mr. Aldwin if he wanted to join and add a little more color to it.
Yes, absolutely. So the 2 pieces I will add is that as you're looking at the way we approach education, there are sort of cylinders, if you will, that these services fall into. As you're looking at a full service community school, it leverages and brings resources from the community to provide services that allow the principals and the school team to focus on education, where we're able to provide wraparound services. As we're looking at what those wraparound services are, one of the pieces that we're able to braid, and again, as we look at services, we have to say, okay, are there providers in the community to provide specific services? Yes. How do we sort of intertwine them within the school? That's one type of braiding. The second type of braiding is the fiscal braiding. And as you're looking at sort of leveraging staff and funding. So the program design that the village uses, we would target schools as we were applying for community schools that had services that the community was already leveraging, that was already a benefit. So as we're looking at that continuum of services offered by community schools, we're able to sort of pull these 2 together. And a couple of pieces I wanted to sort of tease out about the FRCs. The FRCs has a strong birth to 5 component. So as we're looking at how we get children ready in the community for school. You know, they're able to go out, we're able to do the ASQs, the ages and stages questionnaires, and make sure that children are reaching the sort of their developmental milestones. We're making sure that they're connected with a primary health provider, so they're able to sort of meet those metrics as well. And then we're able to connect them with early childhood or early childcare centers. We're able to then make sure that they're connected to school. So as we look at it, there's a continuum of services that's offered from birth up until the point where they're engaged in school, and then that continues on as they are going through their K-5 experience.
Thank you both. That was very, very helpful. I appreciate that.
Do you have one more question, Mr. Soliger?
I do. Thank you so
Go
much.
ahead.
The question is for Aldwin. You mentioned the ASQ. I'm just curious with regards to like when you do administer that, there's information that's very helpful for teachers, for educators. Do you that will help with their instruction and sometimes with pretty much with the whole child, if you will. Do you ever share that information, like the results from the ages and stages questionnaire with the teachers, if it's something that would be helpful for the student and for the teacher rather?
Yes, thank you for your question. We have relationships with the schools that we're in, as well as with the greater Hartford Public School network. So as we're meeting with families and we're providing advocacy and clarity around how they can provide the best educational experience, we encourage parents to begin to share these things. We do our pieces around coaching. We're able to provide support for them directly as they're engaging their child in school, or if their children are already there and they're doing sort of the school process. So the answer to your question is yes. As long as we have authorizations and sign off from parents, we are a willing partner on every level to ensure that children get the education they deserve.
Thank you so much.
Any further questions about this?
Mr.
All
Chair,
right.
I don't have can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I don't have a question, but I just wanted to commend, and I'm looking for her name, Miss Hooker, on how she presents. It's good for me. I just wanted to say that. I know I struggle with what I want from when we're presented information, and I just want to commend you on how you present. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. On that note, we will move on to our next agenda item, which I believe is to review some survey data from a Hartford Youth Voices Count survey. Who on the call is going to be speaking to that?
Thank you so much. And I would like to say thank you to the partners that are on the call. I just want to kind of say thank you so much for joining for the contracts that we just reviewed. So we're now going to transition into information around a Youth Voices Count. I do have Ms. Haldane with me on the call. I'll give a little bit of a background and then be able to hand it over for her to do a presentation. So from a funding perspective, the Connecticut Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, Prevention and the Health Promotion Division, in collaboration with the Regional Behavioral Health Action Organization, every year they fund 150 community-based local prevention councils. These community-based coalition, they build capacity to plan and implement substance use and misuse prevention strategies to reduce problems around behavior that are associated with those negative outcomes at all ages or for all ages. Hartford has explored to pursue fully functioning I got thrown off by a text. Hartford has explored to pursue full functioning of the local prevention council structure, which would involve dedicated support staff to adhere to prescribed metrics captured nationally. And the North Hartford Triple Aim Collaborative currently serve as Hartford Local Prevention Council to discuss how to position Hartford to apply for funding that could support the expanded structure. United Way happened to be the fiscal agent for this approach. So for 2023, the approach was where they were looking to directly hear via a youth survey count from young people around some indicators that got identified in those prevention strategies areas around negative outcomes or behaviors. So the partners for 2023 and 2024 were the North Hartford Triple Aim Collaborative, United Way, Advocacy to Legacy, Hartford Public Schools, the Youth Voices Count survey administrator and Wayland Smith were part of this group that came together to put together a survey, which Ms. Violet is here today to share with us or to introduce to us the results of the survey that was done from students within our district from 8th grade all the way to 12th grade. And at this time, Christina, if you could please share the screen so that Ms. Violet is able to present.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing us to work with the school system and the students. And I just also want to thank the staff of the board who worked with us. It was about 7-8 months from when we started with the concept to when we actually had it completed and got the results. I'm representing Rebecca Castagno from the United Way, who was unable to come today to present. So next slide, please. So the purpose, okay, I'm not sure which we're looking at. The purpose of us meeting today is to share the results of the survey with you, just to give you some background and some highlights, and also to let you know what we want to do with it. We want to go out and share the results with community organizations so they can use it as they do their planning based on real data, real information that they have received. And also we would like to continue to collaborate with the board and come back to the committee or to whomever we are told that we should work with the feedback, discoveries, and recommendations from the community, especially as it relates to policy. Next slide, please. So the survey was given in June this year. 746 students participated. It was open to all students in the 8th through 12th grades at Hartford Public Schools. Survey was anonymous, so there was no identifying information collected on the students. And students were also able to opt out if they chose. They were provided with an instructional video talking to them about the survey, confidentiality, and resources that were available if any of the questions on the survey, made them uncomfortable. There were about 48 questions, and the Board of Ed was able to add, I think, 5 to 6 custom questions to the survey. Next. So demographics, as I said, it was 29% of the population actually completed the survey. The majority of the students were Hispanic or Black, and the distribution of respondents was pretty fairly equal amongst male and female respondents. Next. So here's some of the results. Youth lifestyles. A high number of students, I thought, had adult supervision all of the time, 31%. However, 23% of the high schoolers spent 4 or more hours a day without adult supervision. But I thought the high number of students having supervision was pretty good. Sleep at night, 35% of the students got 8 or more hours of sleep at night, but 4.5 said they got less than 2 hours. And some of those were eighth graders. I did speak to some high schoolers as to why they were getting so little school. And unfortunately, when some students get of age where they can work, they work late shifts. And I know that some students were working at Amazon, I guess when they turn 18, that accounts for it. And then there's gaming, which is further on, they said that's one thing that doesn't, they do not go to sleep at night. But the 2 hours of sleep at night was really a surprise to me. And so we just wanted to put it out there. Next. Emotional health. 50% of the students said they were anxious some of the time, and eighth graders tended to have higher anxiety levels and higher rates of self-harm and suicidal thoughts than high schoolers. Let me give you some numbers. 13.7% reported that they felt anxious almost all of the time, most of the time, and 9.3% said they felt anxious all of the time. Those were eighth graders, and I don't know what's going on there, but those numbers were high to me. 50% more eighth graders reported self-harm and suicidal thoughts than eighth graders. 16% thought of self-harm, and 13.5% said they tried to harm themselves. And as far as depression, 25% of the eighth graders and 23% of the 9th through 12th graders said they felt sad or hopeless 2 or more weeks in a row. So you will get, or you have, the full report where the numbers are there and some narratives. But we wanted to just point out that the eighth graders are having, some of them are struggling. Next. Substance use and perception. The survey showed that youth who had used any substance in their lifetime had increased behavioral health concerns, including self-harm behaviors, feeling sad or hopeless, and also reporting more family substance use and problems. For eighth graders, the substances that they preferred were favorite products than alcohol. For 9th through 12th graders, it was alcohol, then vaping with nicotine, and then marijuana usage at almost 9%. So there's a difference in what they're using, but there is usage. Next. Gaming. The young people, 51% said that they felt gaming made them more connected with others. But the negative was they stay up at night instead of going to bed to continue gaming. Next. Social media. Almost equally, students felt that it made their lives better, and many times it made them feel worse about themselves. Some of the additional questions that were asked about social media, they said that they had a hard time stopping using it, and they saw things that they knew that their parents would not approve of. So with social media, there were two sides to it, that they felt it was a way to connect, but then the negative, sometimes what they were connecting with was negative, or they saw inappropriate things or could not stop using it. Next. Bullying. There were low levels of intervention across the board for 8th and 12th graders. When it came to teachers, that was one of the categories you could identify. They said 18.3% of the time teachers never intervened, and almost never was 16%. So 34% of the time they felt that teachers were not intervening. And then the primary locations of bullying were the classroom and during lunch. And we did speak to some students about this, and they said that because it's a lot of students together, that's when it occurs because people don't notice it. Whoever is managing, whoever is supervising, whoever is in charge will not notice it as much when they're in a large group. And the numbers were low because some students said that they had never been bullied. And in speaking to some young people, the thought was that students may not even realize they are being bullied because they may not consider name calling or, they not realize that being teased, being made fun of could be considered bullying. So that was an interesting thought that students could be bullied, but not realize that they are being bullied. And some of the ways that students were being bullied was name calling and exclusion, being excluded. Next, community and school safety. Here's good news. Students felt safe in their community and they feel safe at school. The majority of students feel comfortable at school. And almost all the students confirmed that they had connection to at least one trusted adult, whether it was a parent, another adult, or a teacher. They felt that, they had someone they could speak to. Next, extracurricular. The results of this were pretty surprising, and maybe the students did not understand the question. 67 when we asked the question, when it came to sports, 63% of them said they did not participate in a school sport, 67% said they did not have any physical activity, and 46% said they did not work out. And we're wondering if walking to school, if that's considered physical activity. So this one was kind of tricky, and we have a feeling based on the results that students did not fully understand the question, and they are having physical activity and participating in things without realizing that those things could be considered part of participation. I think that's about it. As I said, Janelle, can you tell me if they have gotten the full survey results or when they will get it?
So thank you, Ms. Violet. So we do have the report shared with Christina for the full report to go to the board at the committee, but we wanted to at least share the results here and to be able to have an opportunity to share with you all that we did start conversations with the individuals that we've been working with. As Ms. Violet said, this has been some months in the making, in strategically bringing back this information to be able to have conversations with students around understanding the survey that was done. Ms. Violet was able to already host one conversation with a number of students that participate in activities with Blue Hill Civic Organizations, which is one of our partners at Weaver High School. And we're also looking to have this information be shared with the different community-based organizations that we partner as an opportunity to review how we can look at the services and activities that we're putting in line for our students. Another thing that we're also considering, based on the information that was shared by the survey that was conducted, is that we are looking to see how it gets folded into our strategic plan development. But we would want to be able to first share with you the data, be able to us also digest the information so that we can really ensure that the next steps that we're putting in play are things that can really support what we're looking to do as a district, because the information is definitely something that we want to be able to address. And then the last thing that I would add to the report is that we did intentionally add, we originally spoke about having 9th through 12th graders, but we did add the 8th graders as we wanted to get information to help us identify as they're getting ready to transition into high school, to see what are some of the indicators or things that were coming up that we could probably put some strategies in place. So Christina will be able to share with you all the full report. What Ms. Violet did was to at least just speak to the results that we extracted from the full report. And at this time, we're open for questions.
Thank you very much to both of you for sharing that information. I'm mindful that we're running out of time quickly for this meeting, and there's one more agenda item left. But Mr. Estelle-Ledger, if you'd like to ask a brief question, go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. And Ms. Haldane, it's always a pleasure to see you. I have a question with regards to the number, the percentage. In the beginning of the presentation, did you state that 29%, there was 29% of participation?
Of
Yes,
the target population.
target population.
So it's 29% of the target population that participated in the survey?
Yes.
That is correct.
Okay,
Yes.
so the number, so when you have, you'll say 50%, so that's, and I'm thinking about that's less than 30% of the 100% of the
8 through 12.
Yes, so
That is correct.
my concern is that when you see 50%, stating that reporting something, or not reporting, but 50% stating that they have been experiencing some type of negative behavior or something that, one of the results, it looks higher, but it's actually, I'm just hoping that we keep in mind the percentage that actually participated in the survey, even though one is too many if they are being bullied or if they feel that they're being bullied. But I just want us to be mindful of the actual number of our level of participation. And I was wondering if you have considered perhaps relaunching the survey so that you can perhaps catch more individuals.
I don't think we have thought about it at this time. It took a lot to just get this first survey, and it's normally done every 2 years.
2
It
years.
was done in 2018 previously, and then I guess COVID, and so we came back. So in 2 years, if the Board of Ed would allow it, we would like to do it, and we would like to do it sooner in the year. We wanted to do it earlier in the year, but there are certain parameters when you do surveying that I didn't realize, that you don't do it after a holiday, you don't do it right before a holiday, and there are all of these nuances that the timing, we took whatever time we could get, but it's really up to the Board of Education if they would allow it again.
Thank you so much.
Are there any other questions about the survey data? Seeing none, we'll look forward to, hopefully getting the full report for our review. And thank you very much for doing the work to conduct the survey and then share it with us as well. So thank you very much.
You. Yep.
Thank you, Ms. Violet. And thank you, Ms. Sophia, as well. Thank you for joining today. You guys want to stay, you're welcome to stay, but thank you so much, Ms. Violet.
I'm aware that we're close to the end of the time, but if folks are able to stay on for just a couple more minutes, I believe, Ms. Hooker, you have a brief overview of some of the restructuring in the Office of Strategic Partnership and Fund Development. Is that correct?
That is correct. And for the members of our team that are here, thank you so much for staying on the meeting. So we're going to be having a presentation or an overview of the Office of Strategic Partnerships and Fund Development, which was previously the Office of Community and Family Outreach for the district. Next slide. As part of the restructuring of our district and the keeping in line with our district strategies and enabling systemic practices, we wanted to highlight how our office is truly connected to the strategies for student success, as well as the strategy for sustainability for the district. Next slide. So we do know that as a strategy, we're highlighting or elevating high quality teaching and learning, student connectedness to school, and a plan for sustainability and success. And the presentation today is going to be able to share how this office is in line with this particular vision for our district. Next slide. Next slide. So I wanted to make sure that at least I presented the members of our team, which they're joining today in the presentation. And I know we're short on time. The strategy that we had was for each one of them to be able to share a little bit of information on what it is that they do. But as you can see, the Welcome Center for the district continues to be under this office. We also have our Family and Engagement Outreach Manager as part of the office. We have our Partnership and Community Schools Manager as part of the office. Our school-based staff are the FCSSP, or the Family and Community Support Service providers. Under the Full Service Community Schools grant at the schools that are part of that service, we also have Community Schools Integrated Support Specialists, or CSISs. Between the Full Service Community Schools grant and the North Hartford Ascent Pipeline, or the NHAP pipeline, is where those staff are. And I would like to also share that we are in the final round of interviews for the director of the Welcome Center, which is part of our office. Next slide. Shelimar.
Good evening, board members. My name is Shelimar Ramirez. I'm the Welcome Center coordinator. Nice to meet you. So the Welcome Center was created back in October of 2007 to provide a friendly and professional environment for families and the community. The Welcome Center is located at 280 Trumbull Street, the first floor. Our hours of operations are Monday through Friday between 8 to 4. Services that we offer at the Welcome Center: our center handles complaints, concerns, requests from the community, from our parents. When parents have any situation at any particular school, we try to mediate, work with the school, with school principals, community partners. We also assist families with uniform assistance. Our office also is in charge of handling safety transfers, mediation support, case management. We also assist our guidance counselors with working papers. Also, under the Welcome Center, we run the McKinney-Vento program, and I have my colleague, Ms. Leslie Carrillo, that she is the district liaison, and she can give more information in regards to the services that we offer for McKinney-Vento families. And just for the people that doesn't know what McKinney-Vento means, McKinney-Vento is for our current homeless families. Okay.
Next slide.
Thank you.
Leslie.
Good evening. Can you all see me?
Yes.
Perfect. So as my colleague mentioned, my name is Leslie Carrillo. I am the homeless liaison for Hartford Public Schools. What is McKinney-Vento? Basically, just to make it short, because I know we're running out of time, it's a federal law that removes barriers for all the students who are homeless or displaced. We make sure that all barriers are removed when they come for registration. We make sure that once a family is displaced, we refer them to all proper programs here within the city. We also provide them with transportation, uniform assistance, and all the basic needs that the students need in order for them to be immediately enrolled in school. Obviously, the need of documents is also one of the barriers removed, so students could be appropriate and currently educated on a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. And then I would also just be able to highlight to the committee that the Welcome Center is also the portion or the body of work under the office that receives the Family Resource Center's reports that go to the State Department of Education. Next slide, please. So our office also has family engagement, and the family engagement or manages or oversees family engagement for the district. And the family engagement platforms that we have as part of the office, we're really focusing moving forward. And it's not that we wasn't doing it before, but a little more intentional, ensuring that we are doing some interdepartment collaboration. We do it at the school level as well as the district level, where we wanted to make sure that our FCSSP, BTO, SGC, processes and protocols are ensuring student connectedness to school as part of our strategic planning as a district. And then at the district level, we were focusing on our ACE and LEAP intervention approach, which my colleague will be able to share a little more about that. We ensure that we facilitate learning sessions, and we do community tabling events as part of what this family engagement and student connectedness to school approach looks like. Next slide, please. Alejandro?
Good evening, board members. And so I wanted to take this time to share with you all what exactly is an FCSSP. So it's a Family Community Support Service Provider. The role of a FCSSP is to develop and strengthen the district's relationship with students and families to support HBS Community Schools framework. They assist with creating a welcoming environment, monitoring students' attendance, reviewing data, coordinating and facilitating family workshops, conducting home visits, and assisting families with needs and resources with resources within the outside of the school building. In addition to that, they also provide resources. They're a resource to identifying potential partnerships and corporate community-based organizations to support the mission and vision of the building in which they reside and ensure alignment with the district's priorities. Next slide. And then regarding SGC, School Governance Councils, SGCs is a committed group of people that consists of parents, teachers, staff, students at the high school level, community leaders and principals that work together in making important decisions on the academic success of all students. An SGC is composed, as you can see here, of 7 parents, 2 students at the high school's level, 5 teachers, and 2 community leaders. Next.
Thank you, Alejandro. And I just want to kind of highlight that Alejandro Martinez is our family engagement and outreach manager, meaning that all our FCSSPs are under his supervision, as well as the SGC and PTO work that we're doing as a district.
And I just wanted
go ahead.
Sorry, Shalimar, thank you. Janelle, my apologies. Just want to share with the board members that at this time, I did not provide SGC data due to the fact that data, FCSSPs, are going to be, the deadline for that is October 15th. Once I have that data regarding SGCs at each particular school, then I'll be more than happy to share that information during our November committee meeting.
Thank you, Alejandro. We would also in our next month meeting be able to highlight the reports for the Welcome Center as well, because we knew that this meeting was going to be heavy. We wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to review that information, but that report is already with Christina, and she will be able to share that with you for us to review next month. At this time, I would like to bring up Viviana Alvarado.
Good evening, board members. So strategic partnerships, right? That also lives within our office. And based on the district's focus for this year, right? That student connectedness and that teaching and learning, we are being very, very intentional about how partners are connected into the schools. How are they coming into the schools, right? So we're having conversations with administrators, EDSLs, partners, to ensure that whatever partnership is coming into the school is intentionally connected to the school's PSEA, right? Their plan for school excellence and accountability. Curriculum alignment is one of the very, very, very high priorities this year, wanting to make sure that we help with those like ELA, like 3rd grade literacy and Algebra 1 for high schools, right? So like those pieces. And then to ensure that all of those things are happening at the school, supporting the whole student, because that's at the end of the day, that's who we're working for. One of the strategies that we're utilizing, and this has started last year, is site visits. at those site visits, we have a roundtable of who is working for our students. We may have, we have the FCSSB, we have administrators, we have community partners, and any other members, right, other staff members that are part of that work. And if a community partner, like the village, right, I'm gonna just mention the village because they were here earlier, they have subcontracted partners. They're also part of those conversations to make sure that we are looking at the big picture of how that student is affected, right, and how they're feeling at school. Next slide. So then part of what we're doing with the intentional partnerships is kind of like giving this protocol. And just so you all understand how partnerships work, because a partnership can be the SGC, right, to Alejandro's part of the work, but we have MOU-based partnerships. That means that there's a memorandum of understanding, and that could mean that I just received one for West Middle, right? There's a Voce Inc. They want to create a choir, right? So they have a memorandum of understanding. There's no monetary exchange. They're coming to the school and providing services to our kiddos. Then we have contract-based partnerships. That's like your village, your Catholic Charities, right? Like there are lead agencies in our buildings. Boys and Girls Club have contracts, right? And those are at the full service community schools. We also have other types of partnerships, which can be the folks that donate turkeys every year to this school, or those who bring a lot of volunteers for a toy drive, right? Like these type of events, or like one-off events. That's another partnership. And then of course we cannot leave out two of our most important partners in the work, right? Our parents. So parent-teacher organizations and school governance councils are also considered partnerships within the district. So this is kind of like the way that we look at them, and we're making sure that all of the dots are connected for all of our schools. Next slide. So just a quick overview, because we were talking about the language line, and they are a partner, right, with the district. This is, I don't know if you all remember earlier that I mentioned the little card. So this is one of those little cards that we get, we ship out to schools along with the big posters and flyers, and this actual slide has been shared across the district. This is how people can access the language line, our staff, right? This is not given out to families, but this is how our staff can access it. You all can like go ahead, dial the number, make put your client ID in, say Spanish, Portuguese, Haitian Creole, Karen, whoever, and then they'll get you to the interpreter. It's important that we mention the school name because we want to track the needs of the schools, right? This is one of the data points that we use to know that, for example, Parkville needs more Portuguese speaking staff if available, right?
Thank you, Viviana. Next slide, please. So as part of our community schools model as a district, this is how we're going to wrap up our presentation, right? I started by saying that we wanted to showcase how our office was really being connected to the district strategy. So next slide, Christina. On the 3 areas that were highlighted as a strategy for the district, I will hope that the presentation that the team did, and I did it strategically that way because I would love for you guys to also have a face to the name so that you know exactly who was a part of the work. When we talk about high quality teaching and learning, we think about it as the interdepartmental collaborations that we're doing, right? We're doing needs assessments. We're making sure that our CBOs are having that practical approach to the curriculum that is happening during the school day. We make sure that we're providing monthly training and technical assistance to our CBOs. We're doing site visits to ensure that alignment and that we're working collaboratively with school administrators. And we want to make sure that there is that feedback structure, right? So that we can have that continuous improvement. as part of the work that we're doing. Next slide. When we think about the student connectedness to school, we continue that interdepartmental collaboration, right? We wanted to make sure that you guys saw that there's that school-based team approach, the work that we're doing with our FCSSPs and the work that we do around our family learning sessions, the decision-making platforms or tables as the SGC, as one of the areas that we have as part of that particular work. We continue to have that feedback structure at that level as well. And we wanted to ensure that we have monthly support for our partners. Next slide. And then when it talks about the plan for sustainability and success, right? The title in the office is Strategic Partnerships and Fund Development. As part of the work that we're doing this next school year, we will be focusing on identifying a diverse and sustainable for-profit organizations that can support our district strategic initiative. That means that we would be engaging, doing some outreach to at least identify who can become a table of stakeholders that we can start having conversations to think about our high quality education and build financial resilience for our school. So at this time, the last slide that you'll see is we just wanted to leave you with some of our October to-do, just so that you can think about the different things that our office do, right? So we started in the summer with our back to school event, but it's good for you to know that each month our office is facilitating a variety of activities that help support those 3 areas that our district is really strategically looking at for the next year. So there is a health resource fair on October 5th that will be happening at Milner School. We will have, or we have each month, family learning sessions, but for the month of October, we have two of them on October 10th, one particular for our displaced family and one open up to the entire district. As I mentioned, we are working on needs assessment. So the month of October will be a needs assessment month to be able to capture some information from 8 of our schools that can help us look at how we're planning and how we're implementing services within our schools and how are we supporting our school administrators. And at the end of the day, really how we're making sure that we're looking at the whole students. We do have community-focused sessions, as the superintendent mentioned during her presentation today, McDonough on October 16th, and then we have another one at another school on the 30th of the month. I wanted to bring up that our office is also collaborating with our teaching and learning office around the Read for the Record, which that is coming up on October 24th, so be on the lookout for that. And as Viviana mentioned, we are conducting site visits at our schools to ensure that what we say that we're doing, we're really doing, to ensure that we're able to look for areas that we need to develop and what is it that we need to do for our continuous improvement. That concludes the presentation for our office. Thank you, Christina, for sharing. And I know we're at the end of time, but should you have any questions, please feel free to ask, or Christina will be able to bring that up to our attention as well.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hooker, and to all the staff from the office for, excuse me, for hanging on. There was a lot of information gone over today. We appreciate your time. Mr. Stolager, do you have a quick question?
Yes, one quick question. Thank you so much. And thank you for the presentation. Thank you for having everyone show their faces, have conversations, and introduce themselves. The one question that I have is if parents are having problems with the buses, for example, if a child is placed on the wrong bus or if there is some type of miscommunication, should they reach out to you?
So our customer service center would be our welcome center. They receive all of those kind of inquiries, complaints, suggestions, questions. However, I will not say that my phone number or my phone does not ring because they also come to me. So as a team, we do tackle situations such as that one, but the Welcome Center is kind of that entry point to be able to capture that data because we are definitely focusing on data to really be able to help us on that continuous improvement. And they're the ones that are triaging the different inquiries that are coming in to ensure where is it that it needs to go for us to then monthly do our reviews on what are the things that are coming in and how we're handling the situation in terms of timeliness, in terms of resources that we're adapting and sharing, as well as having at each one of our schools, having those tentacles, and that's the way that I talk about our FCSSPs. That's another point of contact that families have right at the schools, right? So you don't really have to just come to the district, but you will be able to have access to us at the school level. And then if you feel that that was not happening, then families also can ask access at the Welcome Center. And if you feel that you need to then speak to someone that is at a higher level, then absolutely families are also reaching out to myself.
Okay, thank you so much.
If there are no further questions, I will, again, with appreciation for the staff that's on the call, for my fellow board members, and for the community partners that were joining us earlier, I will move to adjourn this meeting. Stay tuned on the Board of Ed website on the Hartford Schools page for all the upcoming meeting dates. I believe they're also being shared out on social media. So we'll see you all